Welcome, everybody.
Back to the leather care guide series that we're doing. Today we're going over leather care types. And since I don't really know what I'm talking about yet, I've brought Lou, our resident expert, back into the studio. Okay, Lou, we're going to start with leather types. I have learned some things. So I know that there are 9 basic leather types. Can we go through them and you tell me what they mean?
Absolutely.
Because they're just words to me right now.
Where do you want to start first?
Well, let's start with like full grain.
So full grain leather is going to have all the layers attached. So it's going to have that top grain kind of into that how do you say it? Subcutaneous layer. Kind of goes all the way down. So there's a couple different layers of leather, but none of it's split off. It's the full hide. You get all the imperfections, all the scars that you would see on top of a skin.
So full grain means all the things are there. They haven't removed anything?
Yeah, it's all going to be there. It's all going to be present. Nothing is hidden, but also you get the strongest leathers from this.
Okay, so we have our full grain and then we have top grain leather.
Absolutely.
As I understand it. Okay, and most of our leathers are full grain, but we do have some top grain that we use.
I would say so. I would even still consider these into the full grain sense. And that's primarily because the amount that's taken off the top is very minimal, if anything. Comparative to a lot of things in these would be classified as our heritage leathers.
Okay.
So in that order to get that sort of shine, that polish to them, or to get that desired appearance. So that's primarily the aesthetic reason for it.
Okay. And when we say heritage leathers, we mean like not great for work boots, but for your casual or your dress boots?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's not the most geared thing towards if you're out in the boonies or you're getting your boots wet all the time, things like that. It's more for an aesthetic purpose.
Okay.
These things will hold up really, really well. They're just not going to take as much abuse as these guys.
Sure. Okay. Moving on next, we have split grain. Can you explain to me what that is?
So splits are kind of a way that the industry made something so that they could use the byproduct of stuff. So a split is going to be coming from the same sort of top grain hides, but it's taking all that good stuff that keeps the structure and the integrity of the leather off. And so you'll get things like suede splits. Suedes are a little bit more, I would say, finished when it comes to that, but splits in general usually are just the thinner layer leather, not as durable, not as strong, and are a lot more prone to moisture. There we go.
Okay, gotcha. So that's not something that we would use on our boots.
No, it's just not as durable, and it's not what we do.
Now let's talk about genuine leather, because this is something that I hear people talk about all the time. It sounds like a good thing.
Yeah, genuine leather, it's just a label that people are allowed to put on stuff with the bare minimum requirements. So it's kind of that same concept of whatever is on there, as long as, you know, maybe the top layer has been removed, everything else under there that could even just be like a suede or splits like that, that is technically genuine leather, but it doesn't have the good sauce. You know what I mean? It doesn't have this extra that really makes the character or defines the features and characteristics of what the hides actually have to offer. So it's a really controversial term in a sense, like, you know, everything on it that's out there that has some leather in it is genuine leather. I'd probably avoid anything that would say genuine leather on it. And that's primarily because that's just a way of making sure that people, you know, just more like a selling ploy. But it is in the markets out there, and people do got to make a living, so
Right.
they try to upsell as much as they can, and that's like the base definition of what it is.
Sure.
So it's all the leather, but without any of the good stuff.
Okay, so no go for us at NYX.
No go for us at NYX. No, we wouldn't be able to make something good that's going to last you a while.
Yeah. Now tell me about bonded leather.
So bonded leather is kind of very similar. You can see some things that are almost, think even cheaper than like what genuine leather would be.
Okay.
When you think of like, say, you're running a mill and you have a bunch of excess of stuff, all that sawdust that's either coming from that or any of the excess leftovers of whatever it is, you know, instead of it being like a structure that they would put a finish on, it's either shredded or even like the remnants of what that would be.
Okay.
Put together in sheets and then put with an adhesive to kind of make it mishmash. You can see some products out there that'll kind of have, say, leather on there, but it's almost like a fiberboard or like a leather cardboard, if anything. There's so many things out there that just don't hold up as well.
Yeah.
that don't hold up because it's literally almost like a cardboard.
And that would probably be labeled genuine leather, I bet.
Probably labeled genuine leather.
Okay, awesome. Let's move on to the next type.
Nubuck?
Nubuck? How do you say it?
How do you say it?
Yeah, Nubuck.
Nubuck?
Yeah, Nubuck's an interesting type of leather. I mean, I've seen some boots after they get worn for a while, that top layer, after it gets enough moisture, will get soft enough to be a Nubuck. And it's almost like a very well, like polished, kind of suede feeling thing, but it's going to be primarily on like sort of the top layers of things. It's very velvety, very soft. I know a lot of liners are made out of it. It's a little bit different from a suede in just terms of how it's finished. You can kind of get similar feels with things. Like say this Predator Orange itself, it has a pretty soft, sort of velvety texture going on with it. Think of that, but maybe multiplied by 2 or 3.
Okay.
And that's what a Nubuck would be.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have 2 final leather types to talk about. The first is exotic leather, which I'm sure a lot of people can guess would be exotic animals.
Exotic leathers are very interesting. There's a whole entire market out there for boots, clothing, everything being made out of these exotic hides. Some can be very durable, like kangaroo, shark, ostrich, depending on where it's at. Things can be kind of farmed for that purpose. Whereas most of the hides in America that are coming from cow or steer, these are all just a byproduct of the meat industry. So it's what you get here is literally a no-waste system. So if anything, exotics do tend themselves to have very interesting characteristics, but depending on where they get sourced from, there could be problematic things with that.
Sure. And we don't use exotic leathers on our boots, really.
No, not really. And, you know, the ones that we have gotten have been always well sourced. I mean, we're super adamant about any of that stuff that we do. And that's primarily because it makes a better product and the overall quality itself is much far superior.
Nice. That leads us to our last type of leather, which isn't really leather, but we talk about it. It's vegan leather.
Vegan leather.
What
yeah.
is vegan leather?
Vegan leather is not leather. It is almost a substitute made with mix of petroleums and things like that. It's a way of having a thing that's quote unquote cruelty free. That's fair, but realistically, otherwise this stuff would go to waste if it wasn't used. So 99% of the things that do come through most American tanneries are going to be coming from the meat industry. So otherwise it would get thrown away.
Right. And a lot of vegan leather has plastic, right? Which
A lot of
definitely
plastics.
does not break down well over time.
Does not break down well over time. Eventually, things like this, oh man, I would say maybe chrome tan stuff would probably take a little bit longer. Probably 100 years, it'd probably find its pass. But most things that are probably going to be made out of vegan leather are going to last a long time and stay in the system of
Right.
whatever the flow is.
Yeah, but by last, you don't mean in like a quality boot form.
No.
You just mean like as particles and.
Just as particles.
Yeah, for teaching me about all of the leather types. Now, this is kind of an aside thing, but as you were showing me the leathers, you were kind of like doing this thing. Can you explain to people who are watching who might not know why we do this?
Absolutely.
Why we do this?
Absolutely. So you can see it really prevalent, especially with this Wicked and Craig leather, and primarily with the Latigo and the double stuff. This pull-up that you get, that's just the dispersion of oils that are kind of stuck in that layer. When I pinch that, that moves the oils around. You kind of see the underlying color of that.
Yeah. You definitely see it much better on some than others.
Absolutely. There's ones that have good pull-up, you know, and that's well-oiled leather, and some that really don't have too much of it. This one you might get a little bit of color variation.
Yeah.
Ones that you get barely any pull-up, probably going to be more of the drier leathers, if anything.
Okay.
So, smack support, you still even get a little bit pull up with that. Most black leathers, you won't notice it because the color gradient is not going to be the same.
Right.
But all the high spots and things like that, stuff that really gives characteristic to a boot, when it's lasted, stretched over, that's kind of the money ticket with it. Kind of the beauty factor.
And I have noticed internally just a lot of the best pull-up comes from these double stuffed.
I would say so.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes the color
Absolutely.
difference is wild. Like on that Mojave that we released recently on the Americana, I could not believe the pull-up on that.
And, you know, those leathers just tend to make a really good-looking boot. And because you get kind of a two-tone thing, you know, the uppers are going to be a little bit darker, a little bit more saturated, but with the amount of pull-up that you get, just the change in it is
Yeah.
fantastic. I mean, this guy's a winner. The double stuffed natural.
Yeah, definitely. As always, appreciate your expertise in the room with me. And thank you so much for watching.
Thank you so much, Ward.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see you next time.
Give me a clap.
We'll get it at the same time one of these.
Yeah,
That was good.